You know, this is a topic that comes up quite frequently on the social channels of the brigade and these others I've seen, is what exactly makes a good GM? What sets a good GM apart from a mediocre GM? The GM being Game Master, which is the ubiquitous term to replace the DM or Dungeon Master from the older school of thought, especially when we came into many game genres and various types that where Dungeon didn't really apply. Game Master became the better term, and it's one I prefer over the DM. It just is for habit. What sets a good GM apart from ho-hum, a less than average or less inspiring GM? Okay. That's a complicated and tricky question and can never be 100% answered to the satisfaction of any of us, because we all have our opinions on what makes one person better at this than others. But, okay. Experience. The more you do, the better you get. I don't care what it is, what hobby or profession or whatever. The more you do of something, the better you get. It's true. You know, if you got a person who GMs once in a blue moon, they're not going to be as fluent in the micromanagement or the management style necessary to run a good campaign. Even if you're just picking up a random, module, I'm going to pick up a random module and just run it straight out of the book. Well, anybody can do that, and that's how most novice game masters start. And that's exactly the way you want to start for the most part. Then expand into becoming creative and inventing your own stuff. Just saying, because there's a lot of pitfalls of just trying to master this thing I'm going to create this grand campaign and I've never done any of it. I'm not even familiar with the bare bones of the mechanic side. As a player, I understand, but I don't understand from the GM side of how these things are supposed to be applied and where you have to make judgment calls. That's all part of the learning curve, right? Study. Okay, study. Now this is a part that sets most GMs apart from each other. The level of study. Now, what I mean by study is we've got the experience. We play loads and loads of games. We've run lots and lots of campaigns. We've run lots of modules. We get better as we go. The study part is where we take our material, our source books, our game material, other references, other people's experiences, these video blogs, these blogs, these storybooks, the list just goes off. And we continue to try to hone our skill. If you pick up a hobby, and I don't care what the hobby is, if you want to restore motorcycles as a hobby, the more you know about how those are done, the better off you are. You will gain inspiration from seeing how other people have restored theirs. You will gain mechanical knowledge by studying how this kind of motorcycle differs from that kind of motorcycle. So how does this game system differ from that game system? Even combined systems. So if I have an older version and a newer version of the same thing, what are the sublime differences between the two? And how do they apply? How does what they learned from the early stuff that they carry over to the later stuff? Sometimes that's a fallacy, because a lot of the times, in some cases, the later stuff actually has hurt the whole set, because they've tried to fix something that wasn't broke. It was just something that wasn't quite used or utilized the way that the creators envisioned that it should. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But that study is what lets us become better at understanding the nuances behind what it is to run a game, whether it's mechanic or storyline based. I'm just saying, you can't have a storyline without knowing the basics of the mechanics. And you can't have a good mechanic game system without having some storyline. If you're running a tabletop war game, you don't need a whole lot of storyline. You just need a paragraph saying this is why we're here to fight the battle. And it's all about the mechanics. If you're telling a story and there's very little mechanics involved, the Vampire the Masquerade is one of those game systems that have very sparse mechanic systems, and because most of it is in the storytelling and the backstory and this joint creation that we work together to build upon. But knowing that, understanding how that differs from, Rollmaster's mechanic-heavy game system and the old Star Wars D6's chunky game system, as opposed to the more smooth D20 stuff today. Well, they didn't get there from here without a lot of hard work in between. This is one of those things that set us apart, a better GM apart from a lesser or a mediocre GM. It goes without saying. Inspiration, understanding. Now, this is a little more complicated because not everybody views it the same way. At least that's my take on it from looking at what everybody else says. We gain inspiration from everything around us. We also gain inspiration from what we've read, what we've seen, what we've played, and what others have done. We can sit here, just in the conversation that we're having right now, or I'm having with you, and you look and think, something rings a bell in your head, and later down the road, whether you wittingly or unwittingly know it, I've affected some kind of thought process regarding some specific or not so specific thing, and it affects you by getting you to at least think about why I play the way I do, or why I run something the way I do, and is there a better way of doing it? We gain inspiration, we gain knowledge, so understanding, playing, so we got experience, understanding the differences and nuances, the mechanics, the inspiration to do so, to inspiration from others, gaining through other people's experiences and from the materials around us. I mean, this is one of the three things that set an average GM apart from a spectacular GM. Now, four is something I tend to lack. I do not have the eloquence of a storyteller. There are some people that have a conscience, have a persona, have a presence, have charisma, have that undefinable spec about them that sets them apart, that makes them so you want to hear what they have to say. Their words are poetry. Their tone is soothing. Even if they have no clue what the hell they're talking about, it comes off as sounding like they're bloody genius. And all you can do is want to inspire to be moderately as good as they are. And I can run off on 5 people right off the bat that come to my mind from my experiences, and without going out and ringing bells and stuff, Runeslinger and the Humble GM, right there off the bat, there's 2 guys right there. The Grumpy GM in his own way, he's got some more half-chopped things as I do, but Ivan Mike, these are people that have a presence in aspects, and some of them have a charisma, others have a determined knowledge and a smoothness about them. Others have their craft honed to the point where when they do their videos, they're quick, they're concise, they're clean. They don't stumble and bumble around all over everything. They know what they got to say, or they come across as these the gentleman gamer with such a proposed charisma that you just can't not sit there and watch the whole video, because you don't want to miss what they might say. You might miss something, and just listening to them talk is worth the show. Where a lot of others will come across, will listen to the blog or the video, or read into it for a little bit, and if it doesn't trip our trigger right away, we move on to the next thing. Mine, my view time shows that. I get that. A lot of my stuff runs long. Can't help it. I'm working at it. Maybe I'll get better. It's practice. I'm back at that, trying to gain the experience, trying to gain the mechanical insight and the knowledge I need, trying to find the inspiration to develop the things I need, to work into the eloquence, to the storytelling part that's captivating, that captures the people. Some people are naturally good at being a GM, and some are not. Majority of us have to struggle and work with it all the time. And the more we do, the better we go. And unfortunately, the other side of the coin is the truth too. Is the longer we go between running campaigns and being that GM, we're likely to backslide. we become, and I'll acknowledge that. I know that my next game system, when next time I get a chance in a position where I can get some people together and actually run a game, I'm going to probably stumble all over myself. And it's partly because it's not because I don't have the knowledge and the experience and the mechanic understanding and inspiration and stuff. I'm just rusty. I'm out of touch. I am uncertain and not as confident as I would be after I've been at it a while, especially if I have a new group of players, right? They're in part of the problem. So, there's my take on what it makes to be a good GM, what it makes to be a mediocre GM. And I'm not trying to put a finger on saying, well, you guys are lazy, or you're doing this, or you're not good at this, because anybody can improve if you're willing and you're dogged and you're determined. And if you can master 2 or 3 of the 5 points, then you've got what it takes to be a pretty decent GM. And everybody has room for improvement. So there you go. My take on